My name is Ruth Morales, and today I'm going to talk about the proposition is that abortion should not be legal. My two claims are that abortion is murder and that it harms the mother. So first, I want to start off with stating some polls conducted in America of what people think about abortion. So one of the polls was the Sloppy International poll, and 61% of Americans say abortion should be illegal after the fetal heartbeat has begun. The Humphrey Taylor poll said that 72% of Americans say abortion should be illegal after the first 3 months of pregnancy. The IBID poll said that 86% of Americans say abortion should be illegal after the first 6 months of pregnancy. And the last poll said that only 6% to 17% of Americans believe abortion should be legal at any time in all circumstances. So my first claim is that abortion is murder. An unborn baby is considered a human by the U.S. government, therefore it should have the right to life. Many may ask, is it alive or is it just a cell? And in the book Life Before Birth by Majority England, he explains that it is scientifically proven that even the earliest human embryo is alive. The moment that the human sperm penetrates a human egg, it comes into existence. This stage is called zygote, which begins a program of development for the human's life. Also, human life begins to develop rapidly. In the book of The Developing Human by Moore and Prasad, they state that after 22 days, the baby's heart can circulate its own blood. At 6 weeks, it develops eyelids, eyes, a nose, a mouth, and a tongue. At 8 weeks, it develops its own organs and body structures, and at 10 weeks, it begins to perform movements. Also, the Maureen Kondig from the University of Utah School of Medicine argues that a fetus experiences pain during the procedure because as early as the first trimester, they begin to detect sensations in their body. So to summarize, my first claim is that abortion is murder because the fetus is in fact alive and it is considered human from the moment penetration occurs. So just like us, they feel pain, therefore you are murdering a human. My second claim is that it puts the mother in danger. While it is a difficult decision for the mother to make, they don't consider themselves and their well-being. Rather, they just think of getting the baby out anyway and as soon as possible. However, there's many complications that can come with that. In a study published by a peer-reviewed international journal of epidemiology, estimated that 15% of the first trimester miscarriages are attributed to a prior history of induced abortion. Therefore, there's a probability for you to get a miscarriage if you have aborted in the past. Also, in a 2013 Chinese study published by a peer-reviewed Indian Journal of Cancer, it was found that there's an association between breast cancer and the history of abortions. To add to that, in a February 2014 study, they established that in a peer-reviewed cancer causes and controls, they found that abortion is significantly associated with an increase of breast cancer. The American Pregnancy Association states that serious complications can come. Since complications occur less than 1 out of 100 early abortions and 1 out of 50 late-term abortions, these complications can include damage of the cervix, scarring of the uterine lining, infections, and perforation of the uterus. And although death is rare when it comes to abortion, any surgery is potentially fatal and can come with a lot of long-term effects. Also short-term effects for the mother like spotting, nausea, vomiting, migraines, cramps, etc. So to summarize, my proposition was that abortion should not be legal, and my claims were that abortion is murder because as early as penetration happens, the baby feels pain and is already a human, therefore you are killing a human. And my second claim was that it puts the mother in danger and can cause long-term effects. Thank you.
All right, well, the proposition's a claim of policy, so that's a little problematic. The contents of the speech are previewed for the audience, that's fine. And you give some explanation of the controversy. I think that we have a pretty good idea that this is in fact controversial. Murder is a legal term, and you're treating it as if it's a medical term, and there is a difference between the two. So I think you need to have a little bit more argument about what constitutes murder and how the end of the life in these particular situations fits that criteria. Lots of lives get taken that are not murder, and that's, most wars fit into that category, for instance. Murder, like I said, it's a legal term, and it does carry with it some moral connotations, so you got to be a little bit careful about that in a issue of fact. And like I said, I don't think that that you couldn't make the argument. I just think that it needs to be developed a little bit more and a little bit differently. The idea that the fetus is human and alive, I don't think there's a lot of controversy about it being human. That it's alive, that's, you've got a lot of information at the beginning that is statistical in nature, but that's all opinion polls about what people think is appropriate or inappropriate. That's both a value argument, and as we talked about, public opinion is maybe useful for value arguments, but for issues of fact, it doesn't really establish anything as being factual. The evidence from the experts talking about life before birth and the characteristics that the fetus develops, the dates at which it has heart circulation, or that it has limbs or organs and all those things, that I think works pretty well at establishing that this entity does in fact have human characteristics and it's likely to suffer. That might also be another subpoint that you could put into the speech, that a separate subpoint, does it in fact take a life that would legally should be protected, and then the second point would be, is the taking of that life, in addition to ending the life, is it unduly cruel, or is it painful to the fetus that's being aborted? I think there's an argument that could fit there also. All right, the other argument that you make concerns the risk to the mother, and some of the risks I don't think there's a lot of controversy on. There's just always, like you said, there's a statistical risk whenever you have some kind of surgery. The significance of that risk, I think, is what's important. Your best argument on this is the information about the link to cancer and the link to future miscarriages. I think that that's a little bit easier for you to quantify and talk about how significant and important those are. The other ones, that there's a complication in 1 of every 100 early abortions and 1 in every 50 late-term abortions. But those complications, like you said, could range from anything from spotting to cramps to something that's more serious, and we don't really have any information that tells us which category those complications fit into. So, there might be other issues that would be relevant on this topic from the opposing perspective, but from the perspective that you've got here, I think that you're missing one point that would probably help make your argument, and you need to develop the legal argument a little bit more. Okay, thank you.